2 months too late, I've finally finished watching all of Fire Force Season 1, a show that seemed so promising when it was first announced. Another high-action shonen written by Atsushi Okubo, the mind behind one of my favorite works of all time, Soul Eater? Yeah, there was no way I was gonna sleep on this one. But of course, I did sleep on it for quite some time, likely a subconscious effort to avoid being let down. Because folks, I hate to break it to y'all, but Fire Force is a major disappointment. But Kyle, a 7.78 on my anime list doesn't sound like a disappointment. Yeah, well, I guess this is more of a personal letdown. I've had a whole lot of conflicting thoughts regarding this series since, well...
In this video, we'll be reacting to Fire Force. Let's be honest, Fire Force should have been one of the best anime of this generation, but it wasn't. When it first dropped, it had everything. The Soul Eater creator's wild imagination, a unique fire-based power system, stylish animation from David Production, but thus says the same studio that brought JoJo's Bizarre Adventure to life. And still, something just didn't click.
Since I started it. So some of my complaints and criticisms might not be ones you share, and that's perfectly fine. I just want to say my piece about a work of fiction that I feel strongly about. First and foremost, though, we need some context. Back in 2003, a trio of one-shots were released by Okubo in conjunction with Square Enix. These little samplers acted as a sort of pilot for what would become formally known as Soul Eater when it would begin publication in 2004. Studio Bones would then adapt this manga into an anime in 2008, but in a classic case of anime caught up to the manga syndrome, an all-original and rather divisive ending was constructed. Regardless of how you feel about the ending, the anime's overall quality can't be denied. It was that flashy, expressive action and cartoonishly abstract world that drew me in when I first discovered it, and I've been a passionate fan of the series ever since. Of course, action alone does not a good shonen make. One of Soul Eater's strongest aspects is its character writing, which manages to vary from outrageously expressive to shockingly serious without the shift in tone feeling awkward. It was incredibly refreshing for a shonen, which is exactly what Okubo intended. Emphasis was placed on setting character development in the present as much as possible, letting readers see the growth in real time as opposed to simply relying on flashbacks to build the characters up. The same sort of bold move was taken with regards to series protagonist Maka Allburn, who was intentionally made a girl to help the work feel unique in such a male-dominated genre. These sorts of moves, along with a good deal of solid writing, helped to elevate Soul Eater as a work, turning it into the all-time favorite it is for me now. Naturally, my passion for Soul Eater proper led me to look into some of Okubo's other works, which I now realize was a big mistake. The first and more mild of the letdowns was Soul Eater Not, a spin-off series that Okubo started to help flesh out Soul Eater's world without awkwardly info-dumping during the main story. Since the story was meant as a vehicle for more world building, it ended up being more of a slice of life than high-action shonen, kind of like K-On! With a coat of Soul Eater paint. I never really got into this one, and that's alright because it was intentionally made different from the original work. It was somebody's cup of tea, just not mine. Then, 2 years...
Energy was there, the visuals insane, the sound design pure flames. But somehow, Fire Force feels like an anime that looks amazing, yet never truly feels amazing. And that's the real disappointment. Because when you look at its story, the concept of spontaneous human combustion, fire soldiers fighting literal demons born from flames, it should have been groundbreaking. But instead, the pacing dragged. The tone jumped all over the place. One moment it's emotional and tragic, and the next it's fan service for no reason. It's like the series never figured out what it wanted to be.
After the Soul Eater manga had wrapped up, Okubo started his next big work, Fire Force. By all accounts, Fire Force should be the new hotness driving anime nerds like me absolutely fucking wild. As both an author and an artist, Atsushi Okubo continued to grow and improve throughout the entirety of Soul Eater's run. So all that skill should carry over, right? Unfortunately, you'd be wrong about that. Well, sort of wrong. For those who are unaware, Fire Force is the story of Shinra Kusakabe, a young man with powerful pyrokinetic abilities who joins the Special Fire Force, who are basically just firefighters but way more rad. After a great disaster 250 some odd years prior, the majority of the world has all but burned up, save for the Tokyo Empire, which is still standing strong. Every so often, though, humans spontaneously combust and turn into monsters called infernals, and it's up to the Special Fire Force to deal with these living disasters and put their souls to rest. When it comes to the world of Fire Force, we can see that things are based a bit more in reality than the Burton-esque Soul Eater. That realism is meant to give way to a very real and tangible threat to the lives of the people in the Tokyo Empire, which Okubo has gone on record to state is part of the overarching theme of the series, life. Whereas Soul Eater was a story about those training under the Grim Reaper to collect evil souls, Fire Force is meant to be the other side of the coin, saving lives and protecting them from a fiery death. But that task alone can't elevate this work, because the story itself is nothing without strong characters to support it. Soul Eater's strongest element was its characters, and in a shocking turn of events, it's also Fire Force's weakest aspect. A good chunk of the problem with Fire Force's cast is that most of them don't feel like they exist in the world. Their personalities are larger than life and cartoonishly exaggerated. This sort of over-the-top quirkiness worked when the world was as equally bizarre, but in a story more focused on quote-unquote realism, these kinds of exaggerations just don't gel. This I would like to attribute to old habits dying hard, but Okubo also goes directly against some of the writing philosophies that made his previous work as good as it was. Half the cast is developed through flashbacks, a crutch that Okubo previously dropped and then decided to pick back up for reasons I can't say I understand. Then there's the female characters. When they're not doing nothing, our female cast likes to spend their time either being horribly sexualized or obsessively insecure about their bodies. No character is more emblematic of this problem than Tamaki Kotatsu and her Lucky Lecher Lure syndrome. It's not very good, but we'll get to that in a bit. Season 1 of Fire Force can be split up into 7 arcs, some more major than others. Typically, you'd expect each of these little arcs to focus on 1 or 2 members of the main cast, and then the final arc would bring them all together at the end for one big climactic push. This is not what we get.
And it hurts, because you can see the greatness hiding underneath. The world building, incredible. The lore behind a dollar burst and the connection to Soul Eater, genius. But the execution, rushed, unfocused, like it was trying to be too much at once. Even the characters, Shinra, Arthur, Maki, they're all good on paper, but the writing doesn't give them enough time to grow. There's no emotional payoff. When big moments happen, you're impressed visually, but not emotionally. And that's the tragedy of Fire Force. It's not bad, it's just frustrating.
Oh no!
The closest we get to meaningful development of our characters is within the 2nd and 3rd arcs, in the investigation of Company 5 and 1 respectively. Fire Force Company 5 is run by Princess Hibana, one of the best characters in the series, by far. She's an ex-nun and childhood friend of Iris, Company 8's own sister. The church plays a pretty big role in the Tokyo Empire, specifically in the act of killing infernals, who are seen as victims of some divine punishment. The sisters are there to put their souls to rest before they pass. It's a nice gesture and some good world building, so I'll give the series that much. The arc itself focuses on Iris and Hibana, who start off by having a pretty interesting exchange of ideals, but that quickly goes down the drain. Hibana rips up Iris's habit and tosses her aside, leaving her to be this arc's scantily clad damsel in distress. Eventually, the rest of Company 8 shows up to rescue Iris, leading to a fight between Shinra and Hibana. My problem with this, besides the demeaning fan service, is that all of the momentum in the confrontation between Iris and Hibana is taken away in an instant, distributing that momentum to Shinra instead. Hibana actively mocks Iris, telling her that she's powerless and that her position within Company 8 is simply set dressing performed by the church. But at the end of the day, both Iris and Hibana went through the same traumatic ordeal in their childhood. They both witnessed their childhood friends burning up in that church, and both gained different insight from that incident. Wouldn't it have been more fulfilling for the fight against Hibana to conclude that initial exchange of ideals? Iris explaining her side of the story and breaking through the walls that Hibana had built up to protect herself. Not only would it have been a nice, satisfying conclusion to the arc, but it would have also given Iris a whole lot more development and proven Hibana wrong. That Iris is more than just a pretty face. She's there to soothe the hearts and minds of the people. Soothing the heart of a dear, distraught friend would have illustrated that point perfectly. After the investigation of Company 5 comes to an unfortunate end, our heroes move on to Company 1, which houses Tamaki Kotatsu. So the quirk of Tamaki's character is her Lucky Lecher Lure syndrome, which is some sort of curse that causes shit like this to happen.
Don't look at me!
How did this happen?
It's not very good. That being said, this arc focuses on her relationship with another member of the first, Reka Hoshimiya. Tamaki has quite the crush on Rekka and is happy to help him on his super special secret missions, where he gathers up a bunch of children and uses prayer to protect them from becoming infernals. This is not what Rekka is doing. So Tamaki must come to terms with the fact that her crush is actively trying to create infernals, and the fact that she has been directly aiding him in the process. Unlike Iris, Tamaki actually does have some powerful pyrokinetic abilities. She's a trained fighter and a passionate one at that. So her initial upset is quite natural, but it would make sense for her to team up with our heroes to take Rekka down, eventually leading to a powerful moment where Tamaki gets to overcome that gut-wrenching feeling and prove to the man who manipulated her that she can think for herself now. But this is not what happens.
Oh no!
Tamaki is overpowered by the man she admires and then continues to be sexualized during the fight. Folks, a bit of playful sexuality here and there ain't a crime, but there's a time and place for everything. Moments like these require a delicate touch, and Shinra falling into Tamaki's breasts right after she'd been beat down by Rekka is the writing equivalent of a wrecking ball to the entire scene. This fight in particular is so emblematic of all my problems with Fire Force. There's just so much wasted potential, and anytime we get close to delivering a powerful and emotional moment, Okubo yells, "Psych!" and turns it into a poorly timed goof. While the female characters are especially mishandled, the men also have their fair share of issues. Captain Obi and Lieutenant Hinawa aren't particularly interesting, though both are smart and capable characters, so at the very least they're not the source of any frustration. Arthur Boyle, a character I had really hoped I would enjoy, became very irritating early on, mostly because he's an absolute moron. Stupid characters can be a lot of fun, but Okubo wants Arthur to be a skilled egomaniac while also being incredibly stupid the majority of the time. It's like they say, you can't have your cake and eat it too. I've heard through the grapevine that certain facets of his character get expanded upon later in the manga, but at this point I'm too disinterested in him to look any further. Then we come to Shinra. He's powerful, capable, and motivated, but his entire character quirk is just really poorly handled in my opinion. Because of a nervous tic, Shinra can't help but smile when he is upset or afraid, causing him to gain the moniker of Devil. Despite this, our protagonist wants nothing more than to save lives and be labeled.
You can tell it had all the ingredients to be something legendary, yet it feels like the fire burned out before it really started. Maybe that's why people either love it or forget it, because Fire Force looks like it should be a masterpiece, but it feels like a missed opportunity. The craziest part? The manga's ending was wild. It connected the universe in ways no one saw coming. So how did the anime drop the ball this hard? It's not hate, it's disappointment. Because when a show has this much potential, you don't want to call it mid. You want to root for it. But sometimes the hottest flames burn out the fastest.